We're back, folks, right here in WrestleRant. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and here on the show we break down every pay-per-view that I watch on the WWE Network. Over the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about every Armageddon installment in pay-per-view history. Today we're talking about the penultimate installment in WWE history, Armageddon 2007. So opening the event for the United States Championship, MVP defending his U.S. title against Rey Mysterio in a pretty well-wrestled match. MVP was embarking on the longest reigning reign in United States Championship history, in WWE history anyway. A good match, just kind of a filler feud for MVP before Matt Hardy got back a few months later. That feud had ended just as Matt Hardy got hurt a few months earlier, about a month prior actually, in November. But still, this was a good match. I don't know if people really thought that Rey Mysterio would be the one to take the title off of MVP. Not because he's not credible, but just because that Matt Hardy in storyline should have been the one. They were probably holding off until he got back, which they were. But still a good match. It was well slotted in the opener of the show. Rey Mysterio winning the match via countout, which means that the title did not change hands. Despite that, Rey Mysterio nailed MVP afterwards with a 619. So again, good match, a good way of opening the show. After that, tag team action, Big Daddy V and Mark Henry joining forces to take on the ECW champion CM Punk and Kane. So a monstrous dynamic duo of Big Daddy V and Kane, or rather Mark Henry here. And actually a pretty good match. Most of it was what you would expect it to be, but I thought the final few minutes, they picked up the pace very nicely. When you have a match with Big Daddy V, Mark Henry, and Kane, you're going to get what you get in terms of very slow-paced, not even methodical, just a very slow-paced and boring match. But I thought CM Punk, and being in the ring for as long as he was, kind of kept the pace consistent and going for a clothesline or whatever the hell it was in the end, only to be caught with a Samoan drop from Big Daddy V for the victory. I thought was good. I don't know why they had to pin CM Punk. He was the ECW champion. It's not like it led to a Big Daddy V CM Punk feud. They already kind of did that a few months earlier. So I don't know why Kane couldn't have been the one to get pinned, but whatever. After that, we had Shawn Michaels versus Mr. Kennedy. First ever one-on-one encounter between the two, and a really, really good match. Easily the best match up to this point on the show, and probably the best match of the night, in my opinion. I thought they had some great chemistry here. I love the story they told. The psychology was awesome. But the story they told here was that Kennedy, halfway through the match, got his hand caught in between the steel steps and the ring post, or whatever the hell it was. He got his hand smashed by Michaels. So in the end, the finish is this. He hits Michaels with a closed fist, and he hurts his hand as a result. So out of nowhere, Michaels capitalizes and hits the sweet chin music. I thought it was a great finish, and it was awesome. Led to Shawn Michaels scoring the victory. Kennedy would win the rematch a few weeks later, or the next night on the Raw, whenever the hell it was. But still, a really, really good match, and Kennedy lost nothing in defeat. This was the Kennedy I thought was money. He didn't have many great matches in WWE, but I thought the matches he had with Shawn Michaels really helped solidify him as a star on the Raw brand in the time they feuded from late 07 to early 2008. After that, a number one contenders match to determine the number one contender to the WWE Championship at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view the following month. The Intercontinental Champion Jeff Hardy in a non-title match against Triple H. Again, a really, really good match. Not just like Twist of Fate kick-out, pedigree kick-out. It was very much, a lot of Jeff Hardy working from underneath, which is where he works best from, which is how he works best, the style that he works best. Working as an underdog against the solidified star that is Triple H, the established veteran, if you will. So again, a nice story told here. They had really, really good chemistry that would definitely show out and definitely play out in their series of matches in the final few months of 2008 over the WWE Championship, coincidentally enough. But yeah, really good match. Jeff Hardy out of nowhere scores the victory, rolls up Triple H to become the new number one contender. A genuine shocked reaction from the crowd leading to Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton at the Royal Rumble. So a good outcome. That's exactly what I would have win, help build a new star. It did really nothing for the IC Championship because that title kind of got overshadowed during Hardy's reign with Randy Orton, but still a good match nevertheless, a very good match nevertheless. After that, we had Finlay versus Great Khali in a kind of backlash from, no pun intended, from Survivor Series the month earlier, when Khali took pleasure in beating the crap out of Hornswoggle, and then in came Finlay to make the save to save his son. So the match was what you would expect it to be. Went no more than 6 or 7 minutes. Finlay got his offense in. He hit a low blow on Khali, hit him with a shillelagh to get disqualified to score the victory. So I thought he won via countout, or rather disqualification, or I guess he didn't. But the referee didn't see it. Finlay scored the victory to further the feud. And the feud was just that. There was only really so much they could do with Hornswoggle as the illegitimate son of Mr. McMahon. That whole angle, that abomination of an angle they did in the final few months of '07. But the matches they had with Finlay and Khali, for what they were worth, were all right. They didn't overstay their welcome. They didn't go too long. They weren't awful. Khali, it being in the ring with an established worker like Finlay, definitely helped his case a lot. And Finlay scoring the victory was only logical, considering that Khali was the former world champion. Finlay had a lot more to gain. He was the one at WrestleMania months later, facing off against JBL in the no-holds-barred match, the Belfast Brawl, in the opening match of the show. So again, a good match, a lot better than I thought it would be. Not great, but for comedic filler, I thought it was fine. After that, for the WWE Championship, Chris Jericho, who had only returned weeks earlier on Raw, Save Us Y2J against Randy Orton. And just a great story here. They had a really good build-up with Jericho being the savior of Monday Night Raw, saving us from the boring Randy Orton as WWE Champion. But the thing was this. I understand they wanted to keep the Age of Orton going and keep the championship on Orton. People were really hungry to see Jericho win the belt, and they went nuts when he locked in the walls of Jericho at the end there. So Orton went for the punt kick, only to be caught with the walls of Jericho. So again, great spot. But earlier on in the match, Orton threw Jericho into JBL or over the SmackDown commentary table, and he smacked right into JBL. JBL got so pissed that he came in the ring and booted Jericho right in the face. So I thought it was kind of a crappy finish. I mean, there were other ways of doing that to kind of make the viewer feel like they weren't cheated out of a finish, out of a championship match. And not to mention, like I said, it made Orton look superior, like extremely weak. Considering the fact that he lost the WWE Championship in a matter of minutes and no mercy. He regained it later that night. He lost a match against Shawn Michaels via disqualification in Cyber Sunday, beat him at Survivor Series, and lost this match via disqualification too. It felt like every other match that Orton had as champion, he was always winning or losing via disqualification, which did not help his case at all. He was already kind of established by this point, but still not really the right way to book a champion. But before the abysmal finish that did lead to JBL coming back as a wrestler, as a full-time wrestler, and leading to a Jericho-JBL feud going into the Rumble, I thought the match itself was really good, and Jericho showed that he could still hang, obviously. After that, a brief filler match, Beth Phoenix retaining Women's Championship against Mickie James. Not as good as some of the matches they would have later on down the line in 2008, I want to say. They weren't really given much time. Crowd didn't give a shit. WWE didn't give a shit. Otherwise, they would have put these women in a better position than they did. Phoenix retains, moving on. Main event time, triple threat match for the WWE's World Heavyweight Championship. Edge taking on Batista, who was the then champion, The Undertaker. And again, a pretty typical formulaic triple threat match with everyone getting in their signature spots. These matches can be very hit or miss. Either they're a train wreck or they're a lot of fun. I thought this was somewhere in the middle. I thought all three guys worked well together and kind of teasing and planting the seeds for an Edge and Taker feud. I mean, I guess it kind of made sense. I would have rather not seen Edge and Batista part 7 on this show, just because we saw it so many times in the spring of 2007 that it would have been pointless to do it again here. But I also understand the criticism in having Edge and Taker, keeping them apart for as long as possible until they clashed at WrestleMania. But still, I thought this was a good match. Edge, in the end, using the help of Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder, the former Major Brothers, who were rebranded as Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder, as the Edgeheads that would, give birth to the La Familia stable on SmackDown. So I thought it was a creative finish that led to them getting involved in that stable, bringing them over to SmackDown or whatever else. So actually already on SmackDown. I think they got drafted to SmackDown, didn't they? I'm pretty sure. I don't remember. But regardless, a good match, and the show ends with a new world champion in Edge. So that is Armageddon 07. I feel like these Armageddon shows get gradually better and better. They start good, and then I feel like when they were SmackDown exclusive from, was it 03? I don't think it was 03. 03 maybe? Yeah, 03 to 07. I feel like the shows were kind of at a drop-off, kind of a forgettable show before the Rumble. Not much of note happened. It wasn't a bad show, but I felt like a lot of the shows I talked about were either okay or like, they didn't really leave me. I didn't really have strong recommendations to watch any of those shows for you guys here on WrestleRant if you listen to the past reviews. But in regards to this review, in regards to this show, I thought it was really good. I thought you had a great match between Jeff Hardy and Triple H, an entertaining WWE title match before the fuck-up finish, a really good match between Shawn Michaels and Mr. Kennedy, and what I thought was a breakout performance for Kennedy, a good world title match, a new world champion crowned, a good opener, so it's a pretty entertaining night going into the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. Again, another one of my favorite pay-per-views of 2008, the Rumble show in MSG. So I don't know if this is like you need to see this show. Very few shows are, I guess. Very few shows are like you need to see this, but I would recommend it. I'd give it a thumb and a half up. I thought it was a pretty good show, all things considered, and all the really good matches they had on the show. Not really a bad match in the entire event, which was good. So those are my thoughts on Armageddon 2007. As always, guys, thank you for your support, and be sure to support the show by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. My next video will be covering the final edition of Armageddon, maybe to date, unless they bring back more, who knows. I would love to see Armageddon be resurrected, especially now with the brand split being back, but I guess we'll have to see. Time will tell. But up to date anyway, 2008 was the final Armageddon event they ever did, so I will be covering that in my next video right here on WrestleRant. So until then, guys, my name is Graham G. and I'll catch you folks down the road.